Mic check 1 2. It's the Y2K collector, and over the past few days, I've actually been able to pick up some really interesting games. It's a little bit of a mix between PlayStation One, some Super Nintendo, some NES, and I've even gotten some other titles that I don't have here in front of you all tonight, but I've gotten some pretty interesting things over the past few days and over the past week. And what I'm noticing is that there's a little bit of a change in the games that I'm picking up. And typically I really just try to find all of my games in the wild. I really try to avoid shopping on eBay or Mercari if I can avoid it. I'll typically try to either find my games in the wild at a game store, at a thrift store whenever I can make it to thrift stores, or if I go to GameStop, I'll see if I can find some games at GameStop. And I also use GameStop's website, so that's also another source that I use as well. But typically, I kind of pretty much just pick from whatever is available to me. Of course, there are games that I have on my wish list, but these aren't games that I'm gonna go to like a eBay or anything like that to buy. I'm just gonna hope and pray that I can find them in the wild, because at this point, I'm really not in any type of rush to add any particular game to my collection. I think I've kind of hit a season where I'm okay with letting the video games come to me and present themselves as they come, which leads me to a thought that I had pretty much all day today and into this evening. And it's the concept of seasonality, or the seasons that we go through as collectors and as individuals. When you first get started with just even playing video games, when you're first introduced to it, it's like a whole new world that's opened up to you. You're just fascinated with it. You want to engage with it. You want to play the games all the time. And if you can, you'll play those games all the time. And then you hit a season in your life, for some, where although games are still one of your favorite pastimes, um, you eventually have to move on in life, right? So you start to do the things that you need to do to get into college, and you start to do the things that you need to do to get a good job, and eventually you find someone that you want to be with, and you get in a relationship, and then maybe you have kids, and you kind of go through these seasons. And as you go through these seasons, video games are still in the background somewhere, depending on how important video games are to you and how much they mean to you. And, for some people, they let video games dominate every season of their life. And for some people, life dominates their seasons, right? Like that life, when life starts to life for you, you know how they say life be lifing? When life happens, and you go through your seasons, sometimes video games kind of are impacted by that, right? Video games become a byproduct of whatever season you're in. And because of this, you might go through seasons in your collecting, seasons where you're really gung-ho, seasons where you're going for it. You're looking for every, rare game. You're hunting, maybe you're locked in on buying 3DS games, and so you're solely looking for 3DS games. Maybe you go through a season where it's all about N64 and you want to get every N64 game. Maybe you hit a season where you want to find all of the best import games, so you look for all the best Japanese shoot 'em ups, or maybe some of the best, PAL RPGs, and you go through these seasons, right? And I think that's the beauty of retro gaming and retro game collecting and playing video games, is that we're all going to be at different points and at different seasons. And sometimes that season that you're in can become a filter through which you see the hobby. It can become a filter through which you perceive the world. And, when you're in that season, and depending on how zealous you are, what you're going through, everything can become an echo chamber depending on what you're subscribing to. And I think for me, like with the season that I'm in right now, this is a very, it's been a very interesting season for me, I would say, in my life, like all things non-video game related, because for me, video games don't dominate my life and they don't dictate the seasons of my life. what happens in my life dictates how I engage with video games and what I look for. And as I said in the beginning of the video, I'm at a place in life where I'm kind of letting the games come to me. It's whatever comes to me, comes to me. And because of the season that I'm in, I'm going to have probably a different outlook on the hobby and what's available to me than how I would have felt maybe 2 summers ago. Because 2 summers ago, 3 summers ago, which would put us what, 2022, 2021, so 4 summers ago, somewhere back in there. I mean, some of the ways that I feel now and some of the ideas that I have now are radically different from what I felt back then. Some of the things that are important to me now just aren't as important to me the way they were back then. Even if you look at something as simple as the Switch collection, right? Back then, it was all Switch. It was all about the Switch and all about the different Switch games that I could find. And it was, for me, it was really about finding all of those hidden indie, you know, under the table, off the beaten path type of Switch games that I just loved adding to my collection. And a lot of you really like that because I think a lot of you were able to discover some of those Switch games by watching some of my pickups and things like that. But now I'm in a different season, right? I'm in a season more that might feel a little bit more nostalgic, where I'm probably concentrating more on, the retro stuff. And so my view on retro game hunting or even just the video game market might be skewed by what I'm looking for and what I'm aiming at. But it doesn't mean that that might be the season for you or the season for someone else. And I think that's the beautiful part. That's what makes, the game hunting, the game collecting beautiful, because we're all in different seasons and we're all in different phases. And it's that difference of season that makes it possible for people to be able to trade games with one another. Because at the time where one person's getting out of Sega CD, another collector might be getting into Sega CD. Where one person might be getting out of the 360, another person might be getting into the 360. And it becomes this ecosystem that we all can live and thrive in based on the seasons that we're at in our video game collecting journey. And I think that no matter where you are in your collecting journey, enjoy it. Enjoy it. And I would say, don't let someone else's season dictate how much you enjoy or appreciate the season that you're in your video game collecting journey, because a lot of it is going to be impacted by what's going on in real life. And you've just got some people who forget that there's real life, that there's actual real life out there, real life things that are happening. And sometimes they take the video game stuff a little bit too seriously. But for those of you who understand that and grasp that and are going through your different seasons, no matter what you're into, no matter what you think is cool or not, no matter what you think is hot or not, no matter which console you think is better than this console, enjoy the season that you're in, enjoy the games that you're picking up, have fun with it more than anything else, and hopefully, you'll live to see the next season and you'll continue to grow. So the season that I'm in right now, like I said, I'm still very much in my retro season, where I am just enjoying, some of these retro games, some of these retro titles that I'm finding out there in the wild. I'm still, doing a lot of my pickups at GameStop. GameStop is still the home for a lot of the games that I'm finding out there in the wild, but it is what it is. If these are the games that I'm finding, they're the ones that I'll take. And a lot of these games are actually pretty cheap. Siphon Filter is like a $12 game, complete in box, not bad. F-Zero, maybe $15. Back to the Future 2 and 3 might have been the most expensive game that I picked up in a while. This one was like $25 or so. So, I mean, we got some good stuff, and there's good stuff out there. But you just gotta let it come to you. I feel like if you're a person who's a hunter and you're hunting, it's gonna feel dry, because what I notice is that whenever I go hunting for stuff, it feels a little bit dry to me. But if I'm just like nonchalant, I'm chilling, I'm out and about, and I just happen to like move around, and kind of take opportunities as they come, that's when I feel like a lot of really cool things fall into my lap. So Let me know what season of game collecting you're in. Let me know, kind of what you're seeing out there, what your perspective is. I'm interested to know. That does it for me. It's the Y2K Collector. You guys take it easy.